Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Ash.
Hello, Fiona. You're right.
I'm okay, thanks. I feel like I'm sat in a dungeon. It's like
Well,
it's
you're
quite
in sat in the
quite
same
dark.
spot that you're always sat in every single week. So I don't know why you're.
It's usually because the light's better over here, but it's letting me down.
No, you look great. You look great. So what are we talking about today?
Well, what I'm being asked a lot at the moment is now a good time for me to buy a house?
Okay. And is now a good time for you to buy a house?
Wow, I suppose it's different. Everyone's different, aren't they? It's different. Everyone's got a different set of circumstances. But what I am saying to clients is it's probably not a good idea to try and predict the market
Okay.
because anything can happen. What we've noticed in the last couple of years is that things happen in this world that we weren't expecting. We've dealt with COVID, energy prices shooting through the roof. We couldn't necessarily predict that they were going to happen. So when is the right time to buy a house? It's a difficult question to answer. It really is down to your own personal circumstances, but trying to predict what's going to happen might not be the right thing to do, in my opinion.
And so with predicting, because do you think? Because I've seen this before, and this would be interesting to hear your take. I've seen this so many times. Is that you have on one side of the fence, everyone thinks that the market is going to crash and die and burn. And then on the other side of the fence, you have people going, no, it's going to grow. And what I've found, and it's be interesting to hear your take, is that it's usually agendas on either side want it. So it's normally like a first time buyer going, the market's going to crash because we can do that and then we can buy. Or you have like property investors normally, like people who are selling courses usually about how to be property investors. Now is the best time to buy because house prices are fine. Do you ever? And so the reason I'm saying that is I often find that a lot of the time the information is hugely biased to an agenda and actually not really representative of what is actually happening.
Yeah, this is what's been happening in the media. When we had all the instability in the markets with the mini budget, a lot of what I was hearing in the press was actually just scaring people. There was an element of truth in it, but some of it was very much exaggerated. And I think, the press may always look at a particular viewpoint that they want to home in on. Like you say, it could be the landlords, it could be the first time buyers, but everyone's situation is different. Just because it's not right for a landlord to buy, it might be a great time for a first time buyer to buy. It really is a thinking about what do we want? Do we want to stay with our parents for another 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Do we want to stay in this home that's now too small for us because we have a family? Or do we want to make a move? Can we wait longer? What's going to make you happy? Do you want to continue living in a situation that's not right for you?
Yeah.
When you could make that move, and maybe by speaking to a professional it will help you understand whether now is your time, or maybe whether it is worth waiting a little while.
And so is that something, a lot of times I see people getting in, like say input from people maybe that it doesn't really matter, like it's not really the right thing from them. Do you think it's important for them to speak to somebody like a broker who can give them a clearer picture of their financial situation and stuff like that? Because I think that's the hardest bit, isn't it? It's like a lot of people think when is the right time to buy for the market, but actually you've also got to think about your situation of, are you in a financial situation where it's possible?
Yeah, like what is your end goal? Are you wanting to buy somewhere for a short period of time? Is it an investment? Do you want to live in your home long term? Do you intend to buy your dream home and live there long term?
Yeah.
Investments will go up and down over time. I'm no financial advisor, but that does seem to be what happens. So if you, sometimes you will lose and sometimes you will win. That's the way it is, I think.
Yeah. So what would be if you were looking at buying a house now, would it be something you would do? That's the curious question I want to know.
It depends on my circumstances. We moved into our dream home last year.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm very happy. I'm not going anywhere. If I was at that point where I was like, do you know what? We need somewhere bigger. I want to move to a different location, a breakup, or people getting together. You've got 3 children and your house has 2 bedrooms, maybe you want to move. I think if I was in one of those situations, like this is not working for me anymore, this is making me unhappy, then yeah, I would definitely consider moving. Like I say, my situation is different to that right now, but I'm speaking to a lot of people who are not in that situation, and it probably is a good time for you to move. But let's have a chat about it, weigh up the options, set a budget, and make sure that we can deliver on that budget, because that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, can you afford it, and can you afford to do all the other things you want to do? If so, great, let's find you a new property.
I think that's something that comes up a lot. Definitely. And I remember when I was an estate agent and working estate agent, we talk about this a lot. My old boss would say, like, your circumstance, your personal circumstance is really the number one and only factor you should consider. And he used to say this about, like, because I'd said that was the market bad. He would been an agent for nearly 40 odd years. And he was like, he would just say all the time, he said, people analyze the markets and they get caught up in it. He said 99% of them just shouldn't even bother looking at it. He said, because they should be thinking, as you just said them about that, like, do I have a child on the way and I need more space? Do I want to downsize? Do I want to upsize because I want to? Do I want to move location? He was like, you need to think about your life. He said, because you can't control any of the markets. You can't control whether you bought it at this price and it went up by 20% and now you've made a load of money versus, or wait, he said it's such a funny thing. And I was actually on a call with somebody this week about this, and we were chatting about this type of thing, and I was saying about the energy bills and stuff, and there was a similar thing. I said, I'm very lucky that I'd fixed my mortgage and I'd fixed my energy bills before any of this stuff happened. I said, but the truth is, I said, it's pure luck, and I just made a decision on my own circumstance at the time instead of analyzing it, trying to find the clever way of doing it. And I said, but I could very easily sit here and pretend like I'm the guy I did that. And I think a lot of people do that. They like trying to outsmart the market. And the best way to do is act human. Just act how you would act, what you need to do, and the rest will take care of itself.
I agree with that. I've spoken to clients who fixed their interest rate at 2% for 5 years, but then actually wished that maybe they had, looked for that property 2 months later. Then they'd have managed to fix it at 1.75%.
Yeah.
It's like you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy. So, I think in a lot of cases you just have to make the move. I do the same. We fixed ours, and then I look, oh God, if we'd waited just a little bit longer, we could have got this. But
it's a moving target. That's the problem with all this stuff. It is like you're firing at a moving target, and I think that's something that, like, I was watching a Martin Lewis thing literally today, and I thought it's the same thing. Is like sometimes you just have to. Like, definitely, and it'd be interesting to hear your take on it, but you definitely need to focus on the things that are in your control. And if you are someone who needs to move, then you should be paying attention to the market. But if you're not, don't. And if your remortgage is due, don't listen to what people are saying. Just go and speak. Like, go to the person and go, what do I need to know? And I think that's the easiest thing. Because otherwise, you chat about this off air, you can fixate on the wrong things, and it causes a massive problem. And there's so many times in my life where I've done that, where I've fixated, especially with houses, we fixated on something, be like, I need to make sure I got this done, need to make sure I've got this done. And actually, when all is said and done, 6 months down the line, you don't even remember. Like that's like mortgage fees and stuff. And it's like, go to the one you think is the best one, not the one that you think is cheaper or the best deal. Just go to the one that you like, because in a year's time, you won't even remember that you paid him a fee. It's such a funny thing, but it's so at the time you think it's so paramount. And I think it's the same. And that's what comes back to this idea of, is now a good time to buy a house? Yes and no, isn't it? It's
but then you even can then break it down into seasons. Oh, I shouldn't put my house up for sale in the winter. I shouldn't put my house up for sale this time of year. I shouldn't put my house up for sale now, or I shouldn't do it now. There's always a reason why you shouldn't move, or sometimes there is a very good reason to wait, but then on the flip side of that, there's also occasions in your life to grasp that opportunity, isn't there, I suppose?
Absolutely. Any parting words on this episode before we run it out?
Don't try to predict. We usually get it wrong as the humans when we try to predict. speak to a professional, see if what you want to do fits your budget, and make a decision then.
Absolutely. I completely agree.